What is happening? My name is Matt Bradford. Welcome to my channel. Today, we've talked a lot of abstract. Here's how to approach this. Here's how to approach that. Let's take something really specific and let's build a solo. The track we're going to use for today is a track that I've created. It is available on my Patreon. I'll tell you, one of the things. So first of all, if you just want to get to the solo talk, because I'm going to talk about tone, I'm going to talk about the track, I'm going to break down how to play the track. We're going to talk about some stuff. If you just want to go right to the how we're starting with the solo, it starts right here. It's also in the description below. Okay. I usually make a track 4 to 7 times a week, and so one of the things I've started to do, I'm a terrible businessman. I do like making music, and I would love to make some money doing that. So I have started a Patreon. It is inexpensive. It is currently, at the time of filming this video, $5 a month, and you get all my backing tracks. So one thing that can be cool if you're trying to learn or you're trying to come up with your own ideas, and it's not just for, obviously not just for lap steel, but for anything, is every day you wake up, there's a new backing track for you. You can open up Instagram. You can see what I did with it. You could also try to do something first and then see what I did with it. I might try to get some other people involved in playing on them and stuff, etc. at a certain point. But this is where we're starting. And so today's track is on Patreon. It's also the track that you heard at the beginning of this video. It's a rock track. And so we're going to build a rock solo. And that's something that I is one of my things, one of the things I do. So yeah, let's dive into it. Today we're going to use the D minor pentatonic scale. This is going to be the main scale. There might be some minor stuff in there, but mostly D minor pentatonic. If you haven't watched my how to use scales and how to play blues, I think Blues Lap Steel 1, those videos will cover a lot of this, but a lot of the scale stuff. But that's what we're going to use. So D minor pentatonic scale. Before we talk notes, let's talk tones. So with rock, a lot of times we like to have this really, really big guitar sound. And the one thing that I think I didn't understand a lot when I was a lot younger, and I've learned more as I've gotten obviously more pedals and more exposed to the stuff, is two things. Number one, I don't use as much gain as I thought people were using. And then number two, how I use the gain and how I use the pedals. So let's start with this. Let's start with this. So I'm using my DCC Darko's Custom Creations Plexi. It's basically a Plexi, but with some different tubes in the power section. But it's great, and it sounds like this. This is let's turn the overdrive off. So this is just the Plexi by itself. It's not a ton of gain. And then on top of that, I'm hitting it with a let me face the microphone while I say this. I'm hitting it with a Great Eastern Effects Designer drive. And if you look at it, and I'm taking some video here, I'll take a little video and show you, but basically if you look at it, there's a way for me to dial out low end. So when you hear my original tone, there's a lot of lows, and that's going to muddy up a lot of what's happening. So I'm using this thing to do a couple things. I'm using it to boost my signal, to hit the amp harder, to get me some more distortion, some more gain. And then on top of that, I'm using a little bit of the built-in overdrive. And then on top of that, I'm also sucking out a lot of that low end. Because once we have driven guitars and drums and bass and all of that, we want to cut. So here's the sound with the drive. So you can see it really tightens up my low end. Here's without it. sounds great, but it's nice and big, and it's perfect for like a rhythm track or for like a bluesy. It's gorgeous for that. But as soon as you start getting into kind of the solo thing, it really tightens it up. Okay. And then on top of that, I went through, I think this is a great thing to show someone you're with. If they're like, why do you have 4,000 guitars? Well, I'll show you. So I went through some guitars. I knew it was a rock track, so I knew I wanted a humbucker. So I landed on this one, but let me start with something else. And what I do when I do this, what I do is I play it with the track, right? So I start the track. And what I'm doing is I'm looking for which one feels the best. And I realize that can be an esoteric question. So that one has a humbucker. This one has a humbucker here. You can hear the difference. I hope I can hear the difference and I can feel it as soon as I hit that. But, And that already feels better. That already feels better to me. I don't know why I'm yelling at you over the track. But I got to this one. And this one, as far as... it's kind of the thickest and the fattest. So that's all three. This is the one I ended up loving the most. And so again, these are, I have the option of using a bunch of different lap steels, but if you have a bunch of guitars, if you have a bunch of pedals, if you're looking for what is going to put me in the best space to be motivated or inspired, I guess, inspired to play on this track. And for me, this was the one. It has a kind of fatness to it. It's got a thickness in the middle, which helps it push forward in the track, and then also that overdrive. Pardon me, I ate a bunch of pickles. I'm not really a pickle guy, but that's what happened. The design of drive also, it's got a nose somewhere around 1 or 2K, which is, by the way, the sonic spectrum's here, right? Your lows, you don't need a lot of lows, a lot of those lows and sub lows on a guitar sound. And then anywhere from like 800 hertz to like 3K, that area is where these different overdrives have a little bump that kind of pushes your signal forward, which is great. I saw a comment, I want to say on that pedal show, that was asking questions about getting complementary guitar tones between guitar players. And I would say, especially for rhythm, lead, solo, whatever stuff, having a scooped sound or a more scooped sound on the rhythm part, and then a foot switch that's going to push you forward, it's going to add mids, is going to make it easier to hear you, especially in a dense rock mix or something where there's a lot of guitars that take up a lot of space. And then the other thing is always going to be, and this is always a battle, getting everybody on the same page, but usually less gain, usually less distortion, usually less of all that stuff, because it muddies everything up. Says the guy, I love using a ton of gain. So that's the other part, but it muddies everything up. So we have this tone, and it pushes us forward. Now the track, let's listen to the track and let's talk about, is that what we want to do? Let me talk about one other thing first, which is, no, let's listen to the track. We'll listen to the track. Welcome to my process. So now I don't do tabs, by the way. And if this is your first video with me, I really would encourage you to before I show you how to play this, to just sit down and learn it. You can learn it from the intro video, obviously learn it. I'm going to play through it here, although I'm going to talk over it a little bit. And then also, but just learn, play by ear. We're going to talk about ideas, but at the end of the day, you got to be playing from here and from here, and hopefully a little bit from here, but not a lot. So you'll notice that the track has a chord progression and then a riff. Okay, and so the first thing that I'm doing when I'm thinking about how am I going to build a solo over this is I'm going, okay, here's the chord progression, I'm hearing it, and then over that riff, that's pretty busy. So I want to probably learn the riff. And I'm going to show you guys again. I'm going to show you how to play it. I'll show you how I did it on guitar. The guitars on here are guitars, and then the lap steel was the solo, but I can play it on lap steel too, and I'll show you both. Okay, we're back. The riff changes here. Okay, chord progression is the same. Riff changes each time. Well, same as the first one. And then 5-chord. Halftime on the drums. No riff anymore. And that's going to be helpful. Last time each time, 5-chord. Okay, so you'll notice right away that we have this chord progression, and then we have a riff, right? Okay, so the chord progression is a 1, 3, 4, really common. 1 flat, 3, 4, but really common. Open bottom 3 strings. 3rd fret, bottom 3 strings, and then 5th fret. Okay, and then our riff. The riff is I'm being distracted by the craziest cat. The riff. So we start 5th fret, 3 open, 3 5. 3 open, 3 open on the 6th string. Okay, so 3 open, 3 5, 3 open, 3 open. And I think the way I'm picking it on this side is I'm just alternating between my thumb and my first finger. Second time, it's 3rd fret. Three open, 3 3 open. And I'm kind of focusing on 5 and 4, but I'm using all of them. I'm using the bottom 3. Pardon. Okay. 3rd time through, same thing. And then the last time, it just goes up, it changes, it goes up to the 5-chord. Which is the 7th fret. And does that each time. The second time through the progression, there's 2 sections to the solo, right? There's that first section that has the riff, and then the second time, it just goes back to the 1 chord. There's a couple of reasons for this. Okay, and then the very last time it goes to the 5-chord. And again, if this is not making sense, go back, listen to the track, go back and listen to the beginning of the video, hear it. But so this brings me to one of many things, which is I have to play to the track that I have. And I've had some sessions where make sure this doesn't go to sleep and keeps oh man. Okay. So one of the reasons that's important, playing to the track, is I've had sessions where somebody sent me a track to play a solo over, and they're like, yeah, I want you to shred. And then I get the track, and it's like, it doesn't really allow me to do that. Or, yeah, I really like this vibe that you had on this day on Instagram. And I go and I listen to it, and it's a totally different vibe. And so then that becomes a conversation that I can have and whatever. But the point is that I think sometimes people don't necessarily understand, or my clients certainly don't always understand that I need to respond to what's happening, and you can't fit a square peg in a round hole. So if you have like a really clean tone, it's not going to work with this. The same way if it's like too metal, it's not going to like you want to try to fit in with what else is going on. The other reason that matters is that riff in the first half is really busy. And so when I originally wrote that track, I had the riff all the way through, and it just didn't allow me to do some of the things I wanted to talk about. So I had to change it. And so the second half of the track, where it's just right, and then the last time obviously goes to the 5 chord. So that's different because it allows me to have a little more freedom in that area than I do the first time through. So let's start talking about just the first, when we're going to start a solo, right? Let's listen to the beginning of the track. Okay. Solos can start in a lot of different ways, in a variety of ways. And one of the things that I hear a lot people say is like, play like a singer. And I think that is not always the best advice. And I'm putting up my arms now. I'm guarding myself now because I understand why people say that, and I think that it can be good. But you know, some of my favorite rock, especially rock solos. As I was preparing for this, I was just thinking like, what are my favorite rock solos? And there's some Ozzy stuff, No More Tears, which is Zakk Wylde, and Mr. Crowley, which is Randy Rhoads, obviously. You know, the solo in Shook Me All Night Long from AC/DC. They're not playing like singers. They're playing like guitar players, and that's okay. You can play like a guitar player. That's okay. Sometimes a lot of notes can be fun and can also be helpful if it builds energy. The whole idea for me for a solo is not to play like a singer, but it's to build energy and then release it. Tension and release. It's really more that than it ever is play like a singer or don't or whatever. It can be really amazing, and the same way I don't like if I'm listening to a Derek Trucks song, I'm listening to a different thing than if I'm listening to Ozzy, for example, right? Like those are two, like Zakk Wylde or Randy, totally different guitar players than Derek Trucks or Dwayne or whoever. Like it's just different stuff. So getting the right sounds, and then getting the right idea of like, what do I really want to do? I want to create energy. So in the beginning of the song, if I start just full out, I have nowhere to go, which I could do. Oh. But that's a little ridiculous, and I don't like starting a solo that way. I mean, I don't mind if that's what it calls for. That's what I'll do. But if I have my druthers, it's like let me work up to the part where everything's going nuts. So, a lot of times people will start on the third. You'll hear that a lot. That's really common in solos. Okay. Now you'll notice I didn't play the riff. And one thing I noticed when I was playing over this track when I started is that riff is pretty specific, although it is in the key of D. So so that riff again. Okay, the notes in that are a 7, flat 7, 5, flat 7, 1, right. So that's a flat 7, a 1, and a 5, and then a minor 3 and a 1. So I'm outlining a D minor 7 chord or a D minor chord. And so it's really just a D. I could play and that works. But I noticed for me that what I really wanted to do was to play the riff exactly the same the first time through. So where do I start with that? Well, I'm gonna end up down here. It's gonna be my intention. So I could now start down here with a third if I wanted. Right, and the other thing, I'm going to improvise the solo, but I want to kind of have an idea of where I'm going to go. And this happens whether I'm playing, I just get called up on stage and sit in with somebody like, hey, Matt, why don't you come jam with us on a song? Or if it's like, hey, I have time to prepare a solo, or I'm in the studio and we can kind of work it out and do whatever. It's the same idea, which is I want to build energy, tension, and release all that stuff. That third is a really common place to start. There's a reason it's such a common place to start, because it sounds great. What I ended up finding was that I liked having kind of a descending line to start, which is relatively unusual. A lot of times you'll hear stuff kind of start low and then start climbing. And what I did was this. So I started on my 1 against the 1 chord. Oh, that's the other thing. I'm starting and ending on chord tones. So that first chord is a 1. Let me turn the pedal off for the demo stuff, and then we'll get to it. The first chord, and again, this is so my amp is set with such a little gain that like I can pretty play. If I play light and I have the volume down a little bit, I'm pretty clean, which is cool, or at least clean for me. Anyway, so I started here, which is against my 1 chord, right? And then I end up on my 7, 1 to 7, and then 4 against my 4 chord. So, right, but what it was like, right? So I have this kind of descending line where I start here, and by the time I'm done with the riff, I've gone down 2 octaves to here, which is a cool way for me to start, because it allows me. It isn't exactly what people expect. Which again, I don't actually. There's a reason people start with that. Just that you know, like there's a reason for that. It feels good. Right, it feels good, but check it out. Here's what I did. I need that. You can also hear how buried I get. I'm not changing the volume here, so you can hear how buried I get without the overdrive pedal. And that second half wasn't very good, because what I ended up doing, so now I'm down here, I don't want to just go back to the top. I want it to be coherent. Oh, welcome to the way I teach. Also, just because we're not playing like singers doesn't mean that we don't have intentions going on. I'm going to put this back by there. So I don't necessarily want to play like a singer, but one of the things that these guys do, whether it's Angus or Zach or Randy or whoever, is they have like motifs and patterns and things that you can grab onto. So people will say things like, you know, make a solo that you can sing. And that's a great piece of advice, but it isn't necessarily rock and roll, and that isn't necessarily going to work in a hard rock or a metal or whatever setting. But one thing that is important to me, at least, is for it to have melodic hooks, whatever it is. I want the ideas. I want it to be like, ooh, this 4 bars is an idea, right? Or this 8 bars is an idea. The way we break this up is an idea. And so this track is not on my screen. So whatever, this track is 32 bars maybe. So the first 8 bars is an idea, and the second 8 bars is an idea, and then it goes to that halftime thing for 8 bars. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. For a little bit, and then it goes to that last section. So keeping each section into having sort of a motif or an idea, and so it's the listener still goes on a journey, and the listener still goes, there was that part, and then this part, and then this part, and then this part, and so it's still interesting, and it still grabs you, as opposed to just noodling all over the place. So check it out. If I go, so my first part is going to be this sort of descending thing, and then I'm down here, and I have this idea of I got a little excited there at the end, but you can hear this like that, right? So now, right, it's gonna have that same rhythmic idea in the second half. Now, the third time, I'm moving back up, I'm climbing back up, and so I want to start building some energy, getting a little higher. One of the things that I really like is again, I ended here, so now I start on that five note, and start climbing back up chord tones and whatever. Again, I'm looking for the notes in the chord. So those are those notes. And then for the riff, again, I'm getting excited. I'm yelling. I don't know why. But the riff, well, check it out. I'm gonna do the same thing but higher up, and then I'm gonna flip it. And so it has the same vibe for the riff, so we don't get lost with the muddiness and all that, but it also is different than the first time through. It's still something for the listener to grab onto, and it creates an idea that, which is pretty cool. And then the last time through, we can start to, we're at the end of the section. So this is a place to, again, play. This is the idea for some faster stuff or some slower something. Start to give it the idea that there's a transition. Okay? Something's about to change. And then that 5 chord is going to accent that. And again, this goes back to the way things are composed is really helpful in hopefully building momentum. That's the other. It's just when somebody gives you a solo and it's just like, for like 3 minutes. It's like, what do I do with that for 3 minutes? I don't know what to do with that. Anyway, point. Okay, I'm complaining. Doesn't matter. The point is this: that we're in a transition phase. So listen to the first half of the solo, and again, I'm improvising everything, but this is the way I'm thinking about it, and the way you can think about it if you want to, about the way this works. Okay, so I did something different on the second 4 bars, which is I went back to the and I went back to the same starting place, which I just said don't do, but in this case it actually was okay because it was the same exact starting point. Whatever, there's a reason, but basically, as you explore this stuff, hopefully you'll find the ways that work for you, and it's like, ooh, that makes sense, and that doesn't. So anyway, but you can see at the end of that, at that last one, I started playing faster, and just it's like, okay, here something comes, because the second half of the track, the drums go halftime for the first half. We don't have the riff at the end anymore, so we have an opportunity to do something different. And what I want to do is then move up higher. And so for the first half of this riff, and I should have no, don't play that. Just play this. Okay, well, I should have made a couple different samples, but this is basically leading in. This is coming out of the end of the that first 16 bars and into the second 16. It's the wrong button. Wait, is it? Yeah, it is. So there's some decent ideas in there. There's also some crap in there. But again, as we start to figure this out, one of the things I know is that, like, all right, I've been down here. We're going into the second half. We've transitioned. So let's go to something higher up that's going to wail. And the other thing is, and this is one of those things, again, of playing like a singer. Like, I'm not always a fan of that, but tension and release. If I'm playing fast, that's a release note. We can go from this fast sort of thing to something that is long and big. Control yourself. Long and big and like open, and that's gonna create a different energy. So that fast energy is sort of a tension. Boom. That release, when you hit that one note, allows everybody to go for a second. So I know how this works. So you'll see the second half. I start with those big long notes. And then something, again, we don't have the riff anymore, so I could just go back to here. But it doesn't hurt to add some notes that are fun and cool and feel good, right? And then the second time, again, big long notes, but different notes. We have the idea of what's happening. So now that theme for that area is now big long notes. But the theme could also be staccato, sort of like almost like a funky thing. Every time. I'm gonna leave it in too. what I'm looking for is ideas that are going to be a lot of times rhythmic. We have 5 notes, it's a pentatonic scale, and I'm pretty much playing in the pentatonic scale. The one change I'm making is on the 5 chord. I'm yelling again, but on the 5 chord, I'm playing not the flat 7, but I'm playing the natural 7. I don't remember how I played it, so it could be either way, but that's what it is. But you can see how I'm trying to get into that with a lot of tension, and then I need to change up the rhythm. I like the big open chords, and then getting something sort of rhythmic that people can grab onto towards the end with something that does that, something with the fast stuff up higher. Any of those things that would sort of indicate the chords that are changing, that would be fast and add some tension and release, and that makes it fun. So I hope this makes sense, right? What we're doing is I'm really working on, again, we're working in these sections, these 4-bar, 8-bar in this case sections, 8 bars, 8 bars, 8 bars, 8 bars. On top of that, you have your 16-bar first half that has the riff in it, and then your 16-bar second half that doesn't. And then finally, each section is hopefully, for me at least, is slowly sort of moving up the neck and then adding some energy. So let's try running a whole one through. And again, there's one in the beginning of this video. There's also a different one, a different take on Instagram, January 6th. They're all going up at the same time, so very exciting. So from the... I know how this thing works. From the top. Was that okay? I don't know. I mean, it's they all feel good. They're all different, and that's one of the things too that's fun. Without going on a rant of like kids these days or music these days or whatever, because I don't want to do that, and I think that I know that my grandparents didn't like my parents' music. My parents didn't like my music. When I hear the stuff that is popular today, I don't get it. But I don't. That doesn't necessarily. It doesn't mean it's bad. It means I don't get it because I'm a 42-year-old dude and like my music was from a different time. So that's fine. But one of the things that we've kind of got caught up on is perfection today, because you really can make it with DAWs and with everything. You can really dial everything in pretty perfectly, and at least for me, it can be so perfect it makes my teeth hurt. And so I really like, I can comp takes, and people always, often like, hey, can you give me like multiple takes, or we'll comp it, or we'll do this, or we'll do that. I do like grabbing a moment and going like, wow, that was that moment. And even if that part wasn't necessarily as good as that part in the other one, it is all congruent because it was all in the same moment. And so the biggest thing is going to be to practice. And one of the things that I found as we wrap this up, one of the things I found is that when I have like a jam track or something that just kind of goes on forever, then I just keep noodling. But when I have a track that starts and stops, in this case, this track is about a minute long, give or take. When I have a track that starts and stops like that, then it makes me start to consider ideas It makes me start to build. It makes me start to be intentional with what I'm trying to do. And so I hope that you will, if you want to put these in a DAW or whatever, everything is labeled with the BPMs, etc. So you can always just put it in there and at the right BPM and just loop it, and you can play forever. But I think starting with it with an intentional idea, doing it's like a 1 minute solo. It's a pretty long solo for the most part. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. I hope you'll try to play it start to finish, and then take a second and evaluate yourself, and then do it again. And yeah, that's what I got for you. So thank you for hanging out. If you like this video, do all the stuff that everybody else says to do. And if you enjoyed this and you want to support me, Patreon right now is $5 a month at the time of filming this video. And even if you don't want to download it, if you just want to just help your boy out, it's less than it's less than a cup of coffee. I think I usually make my own coffee, but you get the idea. Thanks for hanging.